Good morning, afternoon, evening, and night to all. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in to the 16th ATSCast. This is your neighborhood dude, Jude, your host, and with me is the rest of the ATS heartbeat. So, in alphabetical order, say what's up, Aaron,
What's
Abid.
The cages, Joe.
I
With the cages.
mean, the next person is Jason, so it's kind of wrong J, by the way, but it works. Jason?
Hello.
Anyway, um, we're just talking about the pandemic, right? Before we started the recording.
yes sir?
And one of the legacies that this current pandemic will surely establish is the growing sense of physical and social loneliness by the social distancing measures in place, right? As days, weeks, months pass by, we have a yearning for meeting with people who we're close to. Maybe except Aaron, because he just meets people left and right. But
Suck my ass.
we
I'm dead. I'm dead.
let's reflect on this yearning to meet people with a simple question, um, just to make sure we're on the right page. How's everyone today? How y'all doing? Are y'all lonely?
Doing good, sir. Doing
That's
good.
that's a loaded question. Dude.
Facts, dude. Why are you
Okay,
asking
let me make
questions
it
you already
simpler.
answered
In
to?
Very
20
loaded
words.
question.
In 20 words.
Whoa,
I feel
bro.
like a prompt
I feel like
essay
my
writer, but
therapist, dude.
I'll start. Yes, I feel more lonely because I can tell by the amount of sleep I'm getting. That's so sad. I'm actually getting good sleep, which is unheard of in a regular time frame, right? Because you're so busy with all this stuff. At the same time, all the things that you love doing, like meeting people, are gone. So sleep, I guess, is the next best option. Kind of unhealthy, but
Mm-hmm.
what about everyone else?
Um,
Okay, you know what? Let's start with Aaron. Aaron, you
Yeah.
kind of meeting a lot of people, current pandemic. You want to talk about?
define a lot. I've met 2 people. 2.
More than 0.
Yeah, sure. I mean, meeting people doesn't mean you're not lonely. I think
That's true. That's true. Good
you know
point.
you can meet people to try and fill a gap, but it doesn't mean that you're not lonely or that you're not craving something else. So yes, of course I am lonely. I think whether I meet 2 people, 10 people, or 20 people, friends or whatever,
Mhm.
I would still feel lonely. That's just how it is. Yes.
I
Abid?
feel you.
Abid?
Damn, bro, that's crazy. Dude, I lost fucking full day, dude. Bad out here. Dude.
Facts.
Excuse anyway.
I mean, yes, the pandemic obviously accentuates that emotional loneliness. Is loneliness an emotion? That feeling, whatever you want to call it.
I think so.
I mean, whatever. Yes, obviously, I feel like everyone's lonely to a certain extent. There might be more deep-rooted loneliness in different people, and that's a whole different topic. But to answer your question simply, dude, yes, I am lonely. I miss my homies. I miss kissing them goodnight, dude. That's how it is.
Mood.
Yo, dude, I miss waking up to a pink alarm with the homies, dude. No cap.
Yes,
Dude, that's a
sir.
vibe actually.
Wake up, baby.
Yeah. What about you, Jason? How are you lonely?
Clearly not, dude.
Lonely, 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 very lonely.
I mean, um, I'm very lucky to have like family and some certain people around me. Um, but there are times that I still feel lonely because because when during the weekdays I just I'm most of the time in the basement just doing my own thing, and yeah, but and I'm just like all alone most of the time, at least throughout the day. So yeah, it can get kind of lonely. So yeah, I would say yeah, to a certain
Hmm.
extent. Yep.
I mean,
Pain.
not everyone has a basement. It's kind of interesting, though. Like, lonely in the basement. That's a very interesting picture.
Yeah, yeah. I'm working. Yeah, that's where I'm currently working now. So
I see. I
yeah.
mean, like, one of the most impacted domains, like in terms of social connection, right now is, well, relationships, right? And the reason why I asked this question, as provoking as it is, like, how, are you lonely? Like, I don't expect to ask others that in such a direct manner. But the most provoking questions are usually the most thought provoking as well, right? So it makes you really
Mm-hmm.
wonder. And thought provoking content is good for the podcast. And so um, I feel a lot of people have this shared sentiment, especially for those yearning not only for family or friends, but those yearning for a loved one, right? And um, we've seen a growing adoption of online dating services throughout the pandemic, which, although had its skeptics in its early nascent stages, like, are suddenly the only available way to communicate with, a potential loved one, right? And what are your opinions of these online dating apps? Um,
Hmm. I do think that these online dating apps have gotten a lot of traction. Um, Especially, like, I can speak for Malaysia during the MCO. Uh, you can tell a lot of people have nothing else to do but look at their phones and chat. Like, you can't go out, you can't meet your friends, you can't, And one of the biggest effects of the pandemic is your source of meeting people as a uni student is uni itself, and we don't have that channel anymore. So I have seen that on these online dating apps, even just for friends, Bumble has like a BFF mode. Even for that, like, I know a lot of people on that because it's just everyone's trying to make the best of what they have this year. And I think online dating apps has kind of helped people maintain or continue to build these social relationships in such a turbulent time, I guess. But yeah. Anyone else want to add?
does anyone else not use dating? I've never,
Come on,
like,
out,
in
come on,
all
Abid. Come on,
honesty, I've
Abid.
never
Fess
used
up.
an online dating
What
app
do you
because
mean,
I
come on, Abid, bro? I haven't been using that shit, bro.
I mean, you do
Um,
have an opinion on it, though.
I mean, like, I'm about it. I can understand why people would go for, or I've heard of people who have been using dating apps more, right? I know them personally, and I've also had many mutual friends who have started using dating apps or social apps. Um, I mean, as Aaron said, like, yeah, you're pretty much stuck at home, nothing to do. If you just want something else to do, you just start swiping left and right, and it's just a way to pass time. Whether something meaningful comes out of it or not is a different conversation.
That's true.
But I mean, for sure, there has been an increase. I'm pretty sure there's a surge across, but I think that's just everything technology based right now. I feel like anything on the internet and the social media sphere has just seen an increase in use because people don't really have anything else to do, right? Pretty much just stuck at home, you do your work, whether that's school, professional, other, whatever it may be. You do your work, you eat, and then you're pretty much glued to your screen, either watching shows, on social media, or dating app, whatever it may be. So
True.
yeah.
Yeah, I have a opinion on it for sure. Um, I've been personally, I've been using it as of lately of this year for sure. Because like like most of you have said, due to the pandemic, um, due to the pandemic, I've been stuck at home, not doing much besides work and everything, and that's actually, you know, it's actually a good way to meet people. Although some people you meet might be really sus, but it also depends, on swiping left and right is more of like something to pass time. No, not many people use it to actually look for something. At least I'm speaking on the people I know. Um, but as for, like even for me, when I first used it, I never saw anything coming out of it, and um, and that's actually um, how I met my girlfriend now. So I actually matched with her on an app called Hinge, I believe. I was really like um skeptical with the idea at first as well, but I was just like we kept talking and everything. She seems like a really chill person, and at first, good, and yeah, so that's
The-
uh that's how I first met her, and I think something came out of it.
Wait, I'm curious, Jude. Have you had have you met someone that's still in your life through a dating app?
No, as I said, I haven't used the dating app basically ever, right? Because I was like permeated on like finding real life connections.
Man's just
I
man's
mean,
just dances and they
the
come
only
to
reason
him.
why it would be of interest to me is if I was stuck alone at home with nothing to do for a long period of time, which is sadly what is currently happening. But thank God I have a girlfriend, so you would probably see me in
Now
more
the
online.
subtle brag, dude.
Nice flex. Nice flex. We get it.
My bad, boys. I'm just stating how I feel. But I want to know, Jason. Though, like, I think I'll direct this to you, and then to everyone else. Um, what are the essentials that you try to find in a person when you initially match with them on on Hinge? Sorry, sorry, on Hinge. Yeah, or on any online dating app that you. So, Desire, what are your like? What do you look for? Is Jason okay? Did I did I
Oh,
over?
me?
Yeah.
Who else
Well,
named Jason? Fuck.
I mean, initially I was just looking for someone to talk to. Just nothing, just someone to really just text and just pass time. Yeah, that's what I really looked for. Um, I never really like. Okay, well, I did have some like intentions as well, but most of the time I'm just like swiping it left and right. I'm not hoping that like I'll meet someone there. So yeah, that's that. At least that's what I mean.
Did that change in the middle of a pandemic?
Um, what? Wait, what do you mean?
You know, you know, you know, loneliness can not only be social, right? It can also be. Anyway, I don't think Jason's trying to go to where I'm going,
No,
but
I mean you could be looking for companionship, right? And
yeah,
it can
you're looking
be
for companionship and like
Yeah.
it can be physical, it
kinship,
can be
bro.
emotional.
According to terminology.
I mean,
But
yeah, that's
Homie
also a
was
part of
looking
it.
for some salami top, bro.
Hey, man.
I've been there you go, bro. I've been here, bro.
Hey, please.
No, but did your intentions change in the middle of a pandemic? Would you have similar would you
I
look for similar things if it's not a pandemic?
I didn't. It didn't really change for me, to be honest.
Mm.
Like, I literally, I was just swiping and literally had no intention. Then, I found out that she and I clicked in some ways. Then, yeah, we decided to meet up and just meet up for and just chat, and it went from there.
I mean
Yeah.
that's cool, dude. Like to our listeners, I think if you haven't got the topic, our topic today is healthy relationships. So Jason's revelation to us is such a good case study. Aaron, Abid, do you wanna expand further on these topics, or do you wanna question or ask anything to our expert over here, Jason?
I
Oh,
I mean I think one thing that
That's an
he
off podcasting.
yeah true. I think one thing that he mentioned, which is very true, and I think it applies to everyone to a certain degree, is the clicking part. I think whether you're looking, because like we were talking about companionship, skinship, whatever the case is, whatever you're using these apps for, it may materialize in different ways, right? You may be looking for a relationship, you may be looking for a friend, you may be looking for whatever the case is, right? And I think the one universal thing is you have to click. I don't say the word click. For me, it's like vibes. If I vibe with the person, then I'm chill. Then I can go out with them. For Jason, he said it's when you click, right? And I think that is something that's universally very important, whether it's a
Yeah,
healthy
I
or
mean,
not healthy relationship, whatever the case is. To be willing to put in effort into somebody, to funnel in effort, whether it's a little or a lot, you have to be able to vibe or to click. And I think that's, it is an interesting thing that you brought up. But yeah. Abid, do you have anything to
This
add or?
awkward silence.
Nah, not really.
Anyway, we
Yeah.
can go into a more deep insight to relationships in the first place. We asked about what you look forward to, what you look for in a potential partner. Um, a more interesting insight would be, what are the essentials and what are the must-haves in a relationship for it to grow, for it to sustain itself? Um, I could go first. For me, I think it's the ability to, I don't want to just say communicate, but in a way to be able to resolve arguments without flaring tensions too much, right? Because I feel like the moment you start to aggravate the other person's what he or she feels are injustices that you are doing, it becomes unredeemable in a sense, right? You'd have to wait for a few days. You have to calm down. And I'm sure I had these arguments with Julia for I don't know, so many times actually, because she's such a wild character. I love her. But you know, it's
Also cute.
the ability to resolve things without inflaming things too much. So that is my must-have. Did everyone
um,
just say okay?
yeah, I think. Can you repeat the question? Sorry. So is that
Oh,
the importance of sustaining a relationship?
for healthy relationship, what must, bro? What must?
Oh, okay. Yeah, for me at least, it's a lot about communication and trust. As basic as it can be, for me. I mean, communicating with your partner is like essentially very, very important, and seeing and getting to know what they really want, or like what are their opinions on some stuff. Is a lot of communication with your partner. Just getting to know her or him or her, and you know, and having a lot of trust in them, because if you don't if you don't trust your partner, what's the point? At least that's how I view it. You know,
Mm.
because you there's I mean there's a lot of times where I've I'm not gonna mention my my past experiences,
Mood.
but yeah, it's a lot of trust. That's all I can say, because um, if you don't trust what your partner is doing, that's just not healthy. It's like whatever your partner is doing, and if whatever your partner is doing is worrying you, that also comes in where communication comes in. So I think it's a lot about communication and trust.
That's true. Um, I think to bring up something that you both haven't mentioned, for me it would be maturity. Uh, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure this all kind of loops in together. It's into one big ball, right? Trust, maturity. Maturity breeds trust and stuff like that. But I do think maturity is something that I've learned to be increasingly important. In the sense that if your partner or the person you're talking to, even if your friend is not mature, because we're talking about relationships, right? It can be any kind of relationship. If you're if that person is not mature enough to, or they don't have a level of understanding that comes with maturity, then they won't communicate, they won't trust, they won't put effort, or they won't try to understand. And
Mm.
it's just something I've come to realize is extremely important, because I've talked to people that I vibed with, but they just weren't mature. And there's a disconnect in ideology. There's a disconnect in the way we do things, because the way they do things is immature. No, not to any fault of theirs. It's just how they do things, right? Different phases of their life, right? So yeah, I do think maturity is the one thing that can definitely be the driving force behind a healthy relationship if both parties are mature enough to work things out and to try to understand each other. Abid, what do you think?
Damn, bro, that's crazy. Y'all brought up good points. I mean, those are all valid and really need to be accounted for in every sort of relationship on the planet, I feel. Whether it be
True.
a romantic endeavor, whether it be with your friends or even your parents, family, whatever it may be. For me, the biggest thing, I'm probably the most lighthearted comment here, and mine's similar interest, Doug. If you don't have some sort of similar interest, although I know people who have no, like me and them are, yin and yang. We go the other way. Um, we have to have some sort of commonality between us to, sustain the relationship, because it'll kind of get boring real fast if you guys don't have anything to talk about or bring up, you know. And obviously, there are things that build. These interests also build during relationships, right? Like, I'm sure a bunch of you were never that into esports, maybe, and then I brought it up a bunch, and then you guys got interested, and now you guys are about it, or whatever it may be, or even football can be taken as an example. Jude, I know, was always into sports, but I knew he never was into F1 as much until lately, right? Like, that's a good. I mean, I'm not
Actually, you
trying
know
to
what?
speak for you,
Yeah. I mean,
but
that's also because of a relationship.
I mean, like, yeah, it accentuated your interest in F1, right? It's not like you never had interest in it or whatever. It's just it helped build upon that interest. So I think similar interests are very important to keep relationships up and sustaining, because without it, you kind of get bored, and that vibe Aaron was talking about can pretty much die if it's not there. So yeah.
I mean, just to expand a bit on that, bring up Jude's example, I do think there is the having natural common interests is a big thing too. But I also think what is really underrated or not thought about too much is the willingness to explore each other's interests. Like what Jude said,
Facts.
he's got into F1 because of his relationship, and now he enjoys watching F1, right? I'm sure, right, Jude? And that's because so it's like how, let's say, you play games, right? And then your partner is willing to explore the games that you play. It's not something that she or he would do on their own, but because they're willing to try and understand your interests and try and understand what makes you happy, they are willing to experiment with that. And I feel like that is also extremely important, because you may not always, or most of the time, you're not going to have the same interests when it comes to everything. That, if you do, then you must have, I don't know, done some crazy shit in your past life.
The God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts. Yeah, facts, right? But I think it's okay to not have the same interest in everything. Of course, you do have to have natural interest. I mean, how else are you going to start talking? But if you're willing to explore each other's interests and dabble in waters that you're not comfortable in, for the sake of the other person and for the sake of understanding them better, I think that is it's a very, very healthy trait to have. Yeah.
I mean, I want to thank three of you because for expanding on the fact that relationships are not only romantically based. That is true. There are. I feel it's more significant to talk about relationships in whole as a paradigm, like relationships with family, friends, and loved ones. That is a very important trait, important thing to look at. Regarding Abid and Aaron's topic on exploring the interests of those you're close with, I have such a good case study in terms of my affinity with League over the past 2 months, right? Like
True.
the first time, the first time I
was waiting
introduced,
for this to come up, to be honest.
right? Right? You know how adamant I was in saying I don't want to play League because of time, right? And I think it was a fair excuse, but it's only because we've been able to cultivate more regular meetups due to gaming, like in Minecraft and in the forest. All of a sudden, there's this open opportunity, right? And it's more endearing to me in particular as well, because this is the it's a massive throwback to our foundations, our roots, considering we all bonded over Dota. So it's given it more meaning in a sense, right? Yeah.
That's true.
Yes, sir. League better game.
It is very nostalgic to the
Can
Dota days.
It is
so,
very nostalgic.
Yeah.
It's reached a point where I wake up at 4 a.m. to watch Worlds with you
Yeah.
guys, you know? So
If
like
only,
that is
if
the
only,
crux,
if only
the
Josh was here playing with us, dude.
apex.
If only.
All this missing is Josh, you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we've detailed a lot on like the essentials. We can look at this in another lens by looking at what not to do in the relationships that you foster,
Ooh.
right? What are red flags uh, that are cultivated in a toxic relationship with anybody, for example? Let's start with a simple one because we haven't talked about this particular relationship in general, but family. Family is literally like the backbone of most of our youth, and I feel currently as well, if you're still
Man.
living with them at this current age, it'll be difficult because being stuck at home with family, I feel, is genuine, a genuine feeling of. There's a genuine feeling of I can't find a word right now, but it's very, a lot of tension in a sense,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
If I could,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm
also-
not the one to speak because I'm not living with my family right now, and I do miss them. But
I'm sure
if
you understand.
Aaron, Abid can,
Yeah.
particularly Jason too, because of, yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about it. I think, especially as growing adults, you know, we are very flawed, and we are trying to find our footing in this world. And I think the one thing that family, one thing that family usually does that is I don't really consider it a toxic trait. It's just something that isn't really productive. And I feel like most families, if they want to build healthy relationships with growing adults or their children or whatever, one thing that they need to have, parents especially, is patience. I feel like the lack of patience can turn into frustration, and that frustration can envelop and evolve into something into something worse. So I think to have the patience to understand that your child is learning, is struggling through life just as you struggled through life back then, I think that is key because when and I'm speaking particularly for parents here. When you're in a position that you've gone through a lot and you've had a lot of experience and you've grown to the point where you are today, it's easy to forget how flawed you were back in it. I mean, you're still flawed now, but it's easy to forget that you were going through the same issues and what you wanted people to treat, how you wanted people to treat you when you were going through those issues. Because now your children are going through those issues, and if you treat them in the view that, if you don't have the patience to understand them, then it's only going to push them away further, and not physically, I mean emotionally. So I do think one thing that families, especially with this pandemic, with people struggling at home to kind of salvage their regular routine. I'm sure not everyone is struggling as much, and I'm sure some people are thriving in this environment. But when young adults especially are trying to grow and find their footing in whatever, I mentioned turbulent waters that we're all dealing with, I do think patience is really key in building a healthy relationship, whether it's family, whether it's friends. But yeah. Anyone else want to add?
I mean, I agree with Aaron wholeheartedly. I think, although he was saying it's not really, I think the lack of patience, as Aaron said, can turn into a very toxic trait in
For
the sense
sure.
that you lash out your frustrations on your kid or whoever it may be. I think that just applies to families around the world. I mean, in particular, I'm pretty sure I can relate to what Aaron was saying heavily. and there are probably countless others who can too. Um, yeah, it's interesting with family because even when your family is being toxic, you kind of look the other way about it. And I feel like that's probably a toxic trait, is that we use the family envelope to give everyone an excuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's family law. So it's just how it is.
Yeah.
When in reality, I mean, it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
Um, and that in itself is toxic. Okay, family is complicated as it is, let alone discussing what is toxic and what's not toxic about a family. But yeah, I honestly don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, it's interesting because I feel like, as Aaron said, patience is probably the biggest thing. If you learn patience, you're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
set. It's just frustration is a big toxic trait. And if you want to talk a different toxic trait, dude, getting pissed off that your kid isn't doing anything when it's literally stuck in a pandemic, bro, that's pretty toxic.
Yeah.
That's
Mood.
pretty toxic, bro. It's like, what am I supposed to do, fam? But yeah, yeah, that's what I have to say on it.
Um, yeah, like what Ahmed and Aaron said, you know, I think numerous other families can agree wholeheartedly to like patience. I think it's also more so understanding, um, instead of like not being too selfish, I guess, in a sense. Um, how do you say this? Uh, it's like, the parents sometimes have to understand where their child's coming from. So that also gives into account to understanding your children more. Um, like where they're coming from, and there's a reason as to why they're not doing certain things that they expect them to do. Uh, but again, that's just again with communications and patience. Um, but yeah, oh man, because sometimes they don't. I'm not speaking on every parent, but sometimes some parents, they don't they don't see what their child's actually going through, and that just really that can really suck sometimes. It's just also purely, you know th- lack of communication and understanding. But yeah, that could be a really toxic trait as well. um yeah. That's all I have to add to for sure.
It's a tough topic for sure.
Yeah,
It's a very heart wrenching
it's not
topic. You're
yeah, it's not really something easy to talk about, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. But yeah, those are at least the core the core issue.
Mhm. We will find ways to we will talk about the resolutions in about family relationships in particular. But let's extend our mindset further to friendships and to romantic relationships as well. Apply the same paradigm that we've been implementing. Um, let's start with friendships. I think it's we've had experiences, good and bad, and long-lasting friendships, right? All
Ooh, yes,
four,
sir.
five, six,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
seven of
sir.
us. So we have a plethora of data to use as facts, as counter arguments for what is toxic and what is
Alright,
not. Okay,
pull
let's
out your
start.
essays,
Let's
boys.
start.
Pull out
The
your
jury's
essays.
out.
Damn.
Alright,
Okay,
pull out your essays. Who wants to speak first?
who wants to start the argument, dude?
Go for it.
Hey, friend, what's
Jason,
toxic
you
in friend,
awake?
bro?
Jason, you awake or what?
Oh, my bad, bro.
Jason just like
Jealousy,
Jason just
bro.
like what?
Jealousy is big one, bro. Toxic trait
Ooh,
number
jealousy. Yo, speak on it, homie.
Oh my god.
I'm pretty sure
Being
this is
jealous
a
or envious, I guess. I mean, that's just a toxic trait all around, I feel.
That's true.
right.
But especially in friendships, it's weird to me because, like, I understand you can be envious of someone, but at the same time, it's like, why aren't you trying to make yourself? I don't know. For me, it doesn't make sense personally. But anyway, I think it is a toxic trait that a lot of friendships do come into contact with, envious and envy and jealousy. Especially more so, I feel like it's accentuated because usually your friends, although there are outliers and there's various cases, your friends are usually in your same age group. You're you're about the same education level, whatever it may be. Like your qualifications are about the same at that point, right? So I think jealousy can come from various different places, and I feel like jealousy as a whole is one of the most toxic traits on the planet. And
Amen.
I mean, it even goes, yeah, it even goes back to religion, right? Isn't it
Hmm.
a sin to be jealous or whatever?
Yeah.
Um, it's frowned upon in most religions, let alone like, okay, obviously the major Abrahamic religions always frown upon it, but I mean, it
I
is a trait that's not good. But yeah.
feel like it's frowned upon because they really center themselves on unity and caring for one another. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like to
exactly.
expand on that, like with a quick prompt where um, I think the limit of jealousy, the limit of envy, is where you start pushing yourself to be where they are. Anything past that becomes toxic, as Abid you were saying. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to point that out. In my opinion,
Mm,
No, I agree. I agree.
yeah. I think
is that it? That's I think there's more, bro.
No, I mean, I agree. I
I
agree
don't
with
know,
the
yeah, I
fact
mean,
that I mean it can be a very healthy self motivator in a way
yes,
because it's
yes.
like, oh, they're doing good, I should try and be as good as them or be better or whatever. It can
Hmm.
be at a point. Yes, I agree. There's a point where it becomes like you just start hating on a person because they're doing better, and
Yeah,
that's when it's
that's
like,
not
what the
cool.
fuck, dude?
No, I mean the point was not to go back to expand. I feel like we have so much
yeah, I'm
to
sure.
work with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm open to it, dude.
I mean
Open
that
to it.
that
let's
that, that
go.
could be
Let's
that could be
go.
a podcast on its own, honestly. But
Let's. The shark is out of the water, boys.
okay,
Let's bite.
I'm a stick to just one trait
Fair.
to keep it simple. For me, the first thing that comes to my mind is utility. One of the most toxic traits that I've experienced in my life is utility in the sense that uh, being used and being of use to somebody, but in a one-sided sense. So I'm quite. I can tell I got this from my mom, but I'm quite a giving person. Like, if you're a homie and you come up and you're like, hey, I need a place to stay, I will let you stay in my place for like a week. Like, I don't think twice about that kind of stuff. And I'm very open about bringing people over to my place, doing things for people, buying them food and stuff like that. And I've been taken advantage of a lot because of this. And I guess I've come to realize that around me there's a lot of people that look at me as a utility rather than as a friend because of what I have, because of what I give. And for me, that as much as yes, uh, I agree with Abid that jealousy is a very toxic trait. In my life personally, I haven't really experienced too much of the jealousy side of things, or at least I haven't noticed it. But yeah, the utility has to be a big thing, and I think it's very, for someone who overthinks a lot and doesn't have many close friends. Um, I think it's very scary to think that what if certain people are with you because you have a use to them, because you don't know that. People are slimy as shit. They you know they they don't reveal these kind of intentions. Of course they wouldn't, right? Um, so I think it's a very scary thing to think who's in your life because of you and who's in your life because of what you have or what you do for them. So that for me would be it is a very bad trait in relationships that I've come across. What about you, Jason?
Oh, I actually wanted to talk about your point because I've been in a similar spot that I've been used a lot. But
Virgo gang gang.
I guess I guess another trait, a toxic trait, if this is a trait, is about like being like talking behind your back, I guess.
Yeah, that is a
That's a
trait.
good
Yeah, it
one.
is.
That's a very
Yeah,
good one.
A gossiper behind your back. Yeah.
gossiper, and the one who does not dare to
Backstabber gang.
come up front to you, I guess. Um, there are many people that I've met throughout high school and college that are like that, unfortunately, and on always finding out from another party than rather than the person themselves is always like shitty, I guess. Really shitty because like why don't you come and just tell me directly, you know? And that would make things a lot easier. I mean, and yeah, I think that's that's one trait that really pissed me off, I guess. Really, really toxic one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I share the same sentiments with everyone else. Um, I feel the one that stands out to me the most would be active ignorance, especially if they're looking towards you, like right in front of your face. They're like saying that, oh, there are certain things that you are doing that I don't condone with, or there are certain aspects that we're not agreeing to, but you're just ignoring it. Active ignorance is definitely one of those, like not ignorance in general, but just when you've already confronted that ignorance and it's led to nowhere. I think that applies to romantic relationships as well. And we will come back to friendships. I think the end of this podcast will be a resolution on all three domains as to how we can improve. But romantic relationships, let's go. Um, Jason, you want to start us off? What is what is one trait in a toxic relationship that you use as a red flag? You would see as a red flag.
Um, I think it's pretty much similar to what I um talked about earlier. Is in trust, I guess. And because if your partner doesn't trust you, or or starts to starts to do shit behind your back and stuff, that's a red flag for me. Yeah.
Fair.
I agree actually,
I,
especially to um, the once they start doing stuff behind your back without telling you, it starts to break down the layers of trust. Like it's you want to trust somebody, but if they do something behind your back, it starts planting seeds of doubt. And I think the worst part about that is the guilt you feel for not trusting your partner, even though to some extent it is warranted. So yeah, I do agree that is a sad and very toxic trait. But you had something to say today?
um, I mean, for me, it's overtly clingy people. I think that applies to every relationship. But if you're overtly clingy for no reason, or entitled rather, I guess, it's a big turnoff, and I think it is toxic. Uh, if you're trying to go out with your friends or whatever, and someone's like, "Yo, don't go out with them because I don't like them," or "You can't go out with them, you have to spend time with me," or whatever, like all those stereotypes. I think it is a toxic trait, and although we joke about it, it 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 has a lot of underlying effects, I feel, and it's never really a good thing. I'm pretty sure everyone can kind of test and agree to that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think for me, one of the biggest toxic traits, oof, there's so many, dude. But I think one of the biggest toxic traits for me would have to be possessiveness. I think this kind of interrelates to clinginess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's like the negative side of clinginess, right? Clinginess can be cute, but it can also be possessive. And I think possessiveness, especially when it comes to friendships, like when it starts to affect friendships, I think that is as toxic as a relationship can be. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure we all have been in certain relationships that have tried to drive wedges through our personal friendships, whether it's friendships with different genders that they're not comfortable with, whether it's close friends that you want to spend time with. You know, when a relationship, you know, which at the ages, you know, that we're at right now, I deem to be quite temporary. When a temporary relationship comes into your life and starts to drive wedges between things that could be permanent relationships with friends and family, I feel like that's as toxic it can be, because at the end of the day, it takes away, you know, if it does drive a wedge between your friends and you, and when that relationship is over, you are left with nothing, or you're left with a lot less than you had before. And that for me is the definition of toxicity. But yeah.
Spoken word, dude.
Yes. Yes. We've all had a fair share of experiences, yeah.
Toxicity.
Yeah. But at the same time, like I think we are all toxic to some certain extent. Whether
Facts.
yeah, you know, none of us are angels. And if you tell me you're an angel, that is a toxic trait already, because you're lying.
Big facts. Big facts. You kind of deluded, bro.
Yeah. I mean, acknowledge your flaws. I think it's not about not being toxic and being a perfect person. It's more about understanding that you're flawed and trying to work on it. I think the effort to try and work on things beats having someone that's just fixed. Like, oh yeah, this person is perfect apparently, right? No, I'd rather someone that's flawed, acknowledges they're flawed, and has the maturity to want to work on that. Because at least that feels real to me. But yeah. Oh? What do you think, Jude?
Jude.
Yeah, is that it? Like in terms of, I mean, I guess everyone's been roll call. Like I segued into romantic relationships with the trait that I feel is the most red flag for me. As I said, it was the fact that damn, I'm already forgot.
It's okay. We
We're talking
forget. We
about
forget to
friendship,
heal. We forget to heal.
Taking your meds, Dad.
We forget to heal, Jude. It's okay.
Man, yeah. Apparent ignorance. There you go. Ignorance at your face. It still works. It's still applicable in romantic relationships. So, yeah, I don't think I need to expand on that further.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's go back to the three domains that we've looked at and see what resolutions we could potentially argue for. I think family is the biggest one, the most applicable one today, because I know a lot of experiences with families can get pretty negative, especially in the midst of this pandemic, right? We talked about impatience, we talked about consistent negligence by parents. What would be steps forward regarding that? Because as a lot of you have alluded to, parents can be difficult to change mindsets. It can be difficult to implement different paradigms with parents, right? Because they have the notion that they're right in some sense, and they are sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, in regards to solutions, okay, I have experiences with both aspects. Of course, having the number of parents I have, in case the viewers don't know, I have two sets of parents, and I have experiences with, you know, dealing with parents that are struggling to change certain features or certain traits, and then parents that are dealing with. Wait, is everyone okay?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, I'm gonna timestamp that. Alright. Okay, I'm gonna continue, yeah? Okay, yeah, so I have experiences with both sides of it, and I think this stigma that an old dog can't learn new tricks is true to some extent, because there are certain things that about your parents that you can't really change, because that's just something that they've been doing their whole lives, and maybe it's not fair for them to change it, or maybe they want to change it but they just can't. Just as how a lot of us want to change certain parts about ourselves, but it is a work in progress. And I think, but I don't think that's an excuse to be accepting of the position you're in. Like I know Abid mentioned earlier, a very good point about we take it lightly or we treat it like it's okay because it's our parents, because it's our family. But I think there's a difference between understanding that something is difficult to change and just accepting it for what it is. Like you can understand that it's difficult to change, but you can still work on it and you can still put in effort to try. But if you just sit there and say, "Well, look, I can't do anything about this. You're just gonna have to suck it up," then that's to me that's the worst thing you can do, because that's just saying, "Well, fuck you," right? I think it really is the effort that counts, and I've been blessed to have family that put in effort to change, and I've had to put in my fair share of effort to change as well. But I think if you're talking about anything close to a solution, there is no textbook answer to this, but I do think it's the effort to want to work on things. You know, if you want to have a better relationship with your kids, whichever parent you are, if you want to have a better relationship with your kid, you have to put in effort. It is not a one-way street. Your parent, you cannot expect your kid to just be the one trying to, putting in 100%. And as a kid, you can't expect your parent to be the one walking in and reaching out to you all the time as well. You both need to work on it, because once you get older, the relationship should change from a dad talking to his 5-year-old son. It should change from two adults talking to each other. And that implies two-way communication. So that for me is, it may not be considered a solution, but I think it is a step in the right direction. If that answered your question, Jude. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, that's pretty much. I feel like every family issue is every party involved has to want to make the effort to change or resolve or whatever it may be. Take that effort, take that step, right? Um, I feel like that pretty much solves every sort of resolution or problem in any sort of relationship dynamic. Really, it's if one person is now willing to see any way besides their way, there's no way you're gonna change that, right? So whether it be your parents, whether it be a close friend, whether it be your partner, if they don't want to change how they're approaching a situation or thinking about a certain thing, and or even trying to understand, put in the effort to try to understand where the other party's coming from, you're not gonna get a resolve or a resolution at all. And I mean, I really agree with what Aaron said. It has to be okay. This person is an adult. I'm an adult now. We gotta talk about it. Try to make an effort to try and fix it, because it's not gonna be fixed overnight for sure. As most emotional and relationship based things are, right?
True.
Yeah, you have to continually work on it. If
For sure.
one of the parties involved doesn't want to work on it, to be honest, although it's a very pessimistic outlook, for me it's pretty much a gone situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be even harder to come back, and like it's already an uphill climb. You're just increasing the steepness of the hill. So yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. Again, Jude, it's actually it's more. I don't think there's like an actual answer to that, but more so like steps we can take to improve. Um, yeah, it's more again like what Albin Aaron said and what I also alluded to earlier regarding understanding your understanding your family and understanding each other. Because everyone's different. Everyone has their own point of view, where they come from, and stuff like that. It's more it's it's to a certain point where you have to, if you want to resolve this a certain issue or family issue, you have to give in. You can't have everything. I think there's certain things you have to give in and be considerate, and yeah, like what Abid said, try to understand where he or she's coming from, because if you don't, then it's just only gonna get worse, or it's just gonna be you're just gonna stay there and nothing's gonna change. And yeah, everything like emotional. everything like family based issues takes time, you know. Um, you there's a lot of like self reflection involved as well, I believe. And yeah, once you once you give in the once the other party sees you putting in the effort, they will also try. Because like wow, like if he's trying to make things better, I should do the same too. So I think that's the only one of the most effective solutions like currently, if you want to really move on and see the brighter day and solving the issue. So yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone's right in saying that. If the stubbornness persists, it's really difficult to break that ceiling. But I think it's important to know that you've tried, um, at least if you tried communicating. If things don't work out there, you know it's not on your side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, Family is a really, really really, really deep topic.
Yeah.
You could probably go for a more lighthearted approach towards friends and uh, loved ones as well, romantic partners. But yeah, I think family as a topic, can it be a podcast in itself?
There
It
can
should
be
probably
multiple
be in the
podcasts, dude.
future, because there's so much aspects are that comprise the topic of family, right?
Yeah.
So let's go to friendships.
Ooh.
um, I don't know. I was about to say like we have experience in bringing friendships together, which we do, but I think about the ones that are lost, and in a sense, what we already talked about the bad, like the things that you should avoid. If in a weird circumstance that we had to re rekindle a friendship, like similar to what we talked about families, what would we do? Um,
Hmm.
for me, it's still this, like the point of communication. It's still very, very important, right? As long as you know you've tried and you've willingly tried, not in a sense where you tick a box and say, I've talked to them, so I think I'm good. If you know you've tried, and you were earnest about the fact that you tried to sustain a friendship, and it doesn't really fall on you, um, regardless of whether you were at fault primarily or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
I,
it really
yeah.
does. It's really universal in that extent.
I think rekindling a friendship, like the steps to go about it, really depend on how the friendship was lost. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you lose a friendship because you guys grew apart and you guys got busy, then I would see you starting to rebuild that friendship primarily off nostalgia, and then putting in effort to rebuild that friendship, because it's not like there was anything wrong with it in the first place. You guys just got busy. Like there's nothing wrong with losing connections with certain people just because your lives took you on different paths. Like I don't see that as a problem. I think that's part of life. People come and go, right? Seasons change, right? Yeah. But I think
Obviously.
if it's a lost friendship because it was terminated due to a certain reason, like let's say you stop talking to someone because they're toxic, or someone doesn't like you anymore, whatever the case is, right? um, I think then it's a lot harder to rekindle, especially because the main factor for me would be growth. How much have you grown since then? How much have you changed, and how mature are you now? Because if I'm going to be rekindling a friendship with someone that I had beef with in the past, uh, which is already a very tough thing to do, because I don't know, I'm not the kind of person that would seek friendships like that. But if I had to, my main factor would be convince me that you're not the same person you were back then. How have you grown? How have you matured? What are you doing now? How's your, like, what have you learned from life? And, if you had to give me the same response that you would have given me when we had that beef, if you're the same person, then I'm going to assume that there's no point in rekindling this. As pessimistic as that sounds. But yeah. What about you guys?
Pretty much with the the different friends is it also depends on the different friend groups, like what you said. Um, because if I want to it depends on how serious like the issue was between you and the other person. If it's like what again, pretty much what Aaron said. Um, if I'm trying to reconnect with someone from high school, it'll be mainly off like, hey, nostalgia, and we did this and back then, let's try to do that sometime and shit like that. And if it's if it's someone for years now and you're really close with that person, I think it's a lot harder because you've trusted that person so much and now it's just like broken, so it's really hard to pick things up just like that, saying like, hey, you know, certain like like these kind of issues can really be solved within, you know, with just a single talk or something. And some things can take over time. Like most issues can take time to resolve. Um, and
Mhm.
for sure, it really depends on the person. That would be my answer. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, I think it also depends on your history, as I feel like both Aaron and Jason pointed out. Like, although there are certain relationships you build off of nostalgia, it also depends on the closeness of your closeness of your relationship. Maybe in the past, if you were super tight, I feel like even if you grow apart for whatever reason and decide to come back together later, it wouldn't be as hard as if it was an acquaintance from 10, 20 years ago, whatever it may be, and you were just meeting them again and trying to strike up a relationship there. So I think, your prior prior level of comfort and knowing them, I guess, is it plays a big factor as to how to go about with lost friendships. Trying to rekindle lost friendships. I think it's always interesting because the lost friendship aspect is you guys grew apart for a reason. You have to know why you grew apart and then work from there to not grow apart again. And it always depends. And I think all of that just depends on effort. And it's whether you want to put effort into a person or not. If you don't want to, obviously you're just gonna like stay distant. But if you don't want to lose someone, you're gonna put in effort. So that can apply. That applies mostly to friendships, obviously, but it can apply even on the family level if you wanted to. If your dad and you were close before maybe and you aren't close now, you have to put in effort and they have to put in effort to get close again. So
Yeah.
I feel like effort is the biggest driving factor of any relationship, and it has to exist. And the rest has to align, obviously, but effort is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. Just one thing, like one thing from what you said and what Jason said, which I just thought about, which I agree with a lot, is especially when it comes to relationships that maybe not lost, but maybe you've distanced yourself from them or they distance themselves from you. I think you have to really look at what value that relationship had for you. And I know it's kind of hypocritical coming from me after I was talking about utility and stuff like that. But I do feel like each person has a certain value in your life, what they like, what they add to your life. I'm not saying you can't add back to them, you should, right? But when you look at a relationship, you can see like how valuable this person is to you, like how much I value this person in my life, how much I want them around, and and it works when you look at a past relationship too. What value did how valuable were they to me before I lost them? So I think when you look at rekindling relationships, or when you look fondly back at old relationships I used to have, it's always important to understand and remember the value that they had in your life, and if that's something that you want back in your life, then I could see no issue with you trying to rekindle it or trying to revitalize that relationship.
Ju-
Yeah, I'm still here. I think the what's interesting to me while you guys were talking is that the same approach that I've taken with family holds very, very true with friendships and relationships. As much as the differences start to show themselves with each particular situation, not necessarily the difference between family and friendship. There are certain responses to certain situations. I agree with Aaron's point on that. But in general, from your point of view, and in my opinion, from my personal perspective, um, like having the mindset of knowing that you tried your all and being at peace with it, even though it ended badly or it didn't go as well as you thought it would, is a very important mindset to have. And I think that resonates with all three domains we've talked about today.
Mm-hmm.
Any more comments on this
Huh.
topic? I know it's a very difficult and strenuous.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's good that you brought up that, because I feel like that's what people need to learn to do, and
Right.
it's just find peace with whatever happens, as long as you try your best, and then finding peace whether it works out, finding peace whether it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like having the expectation that it should work out, and then beating yourself up if it doesn't, is a toxic trait that you project onto yourself. But
Yeah. Yeah. The general theme of this episode has been very enlightening, but it is a very heavy topic that I feel warrants more discourse. Right?
Mhm.
We haven't talked about a lot of aspects with relationships that we hold. There's one particular part that we haven't looked on, and it's really important: the financial aspect of relationships, right? And that harkens us to our question of the week. We talk about money. If you could give yourself $100,000 at a particular age, which age would you choose? Give or take 3 years. Um, so, like, to readdress the question again. So, if you could give yourself $100,000 immediately at any age, a particular age, which age would you choose? And the answer could be give or take 3 years. I start off. I'll give myself $100,000 in when I turn 40, and I think the reasoning is that that's when I know my career has either gone the way I wanted it to go, or it hasn't gone the way I wanted it to go. Right. So if it is the former, then that is a good. It's a good injection in that stage of my life. Like it's a good. Oh, I'm keeping things solid.
Mhm.
Whereas if it didn't go the way I wanted to, which is the latter situation, I could use that as a boost up for what I want to do later on.
Interesting.
Who wants to start first?
I will say when I'm 25. I would
That's very close.
I would give myself $100,000 when I'm 25, because I've always been told by my parents and by influential role models in my life that the best time to take a risk is when you're younger, because you have a lot less to lose. And as much as I know that doesn't apply to everyone, I do think that would apply to the situation I'm in. I do have a financial trampoline to fall back on, and if I were to do anything crazy with investing, I feel like I would rather do it now rather than when I'm older and I have people to support. Like when people start relying on my financial investments or whatever for their livelihood, I feel like I would be a lot less risk taking because there's a lot more at stake. But I feel like when I'm 25, after I graduate, when I start dabbling in business, I feel like that's when I would want to try something crazy, and hopefully see it work out, and I can, find success from there. Yeah, that's 25 is for me.
Damn, Aaron and I are about the same, dude. The instant age that popped up in my head was 26, but alternatively, I would say if I'm right now, dude. But, I think
True.
for me, it's either 20 or 25, 26. It's one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. For me personally, I feel like my mental age is. It can go either I'm 12 years old or 45. Like there's no in between. And personally, I'm one to invest or try to save, I guess. And if I had that big of a sum of money, whether I'm 20, whether I'm 25, whether I'm 45, I'd probably invest it in real estate either way. So I feel like I know what I'd spend it on, but 25 is probably the smart age I'd pick for reasons exactly like Aaron's. Whether it's me buying a house and just starting my life up, so I have that security of an asset, or if it's me, throwing money into a company and trying to make something happen, or whatever it may be, whatever the project I want to do is. I think yeah, for sure. If you're younger, as Aaron said, you want to do as much when you're younger because the level of risk is a lot less, especially because the only one affected will probably be you, unless people are already reliant on you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, the later you go, the more reliant people are on you, and it's harder to take that risk. So yeah.
Pretty much like the both of you, man. Like 25, 26. Like for me, after 25 would be the perfect timing. Before 30, like 25 or to like maybe 27. At least for me, with how my 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 life is going now. If I had that sum of money, uh, by that age, I would know uh if I'm truly enjoying with how my career is going, or if I'm really have plans on what I want to do and stuff. And I think with that money, I would invest something wiser, like probably in stocks or stuff, or real estate, like Abid mentioned, because that's something I look forward to learn about more. Um, but yeah, it's pretty straightforward for me. Um, because I think after 30 it'll be a lot harder because that's when I feel like after 30 things start to really slow down in some senses. So yeah, between the 25 age, yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
in the ideal or like
Yes,
traditional
yes, yes.
scenario that
I
we're
did know.
speaking of, yes,
Yes, yes,
yes.
yes,
After 30, you're expected to find some sort of stability and footing. So
yes, yes.
Uh-huh. I mean, I guess I'm the outlier here, but
yeah, man,
You gave a very
40 years old.
you're
Jude.
really using it
Yeah.
as a backup plan for your midlife crisis.
Yeah,
Dude.
you just
Yeah.
No, the rest of
In
us
case,
are
in
just
case, like,
like balls
oh,
to the wall, fam.
damn, my kid is, my kid ruined my credit card. I have to use my. I can
Nah,
imagine
no,
that
fuck that, dude.
scenario.
My kid
I
buying.
have a house, a bitch. You're getting house later. That's all you're getting from me, dude.
Eh.
Your life is your own.
The-
Regardless,
Jude's kid about to blow out his credit card on League of Legends 2, dude.
I think my kid would do that, dude.
I'm
No
I'm I'm
cap.
I'm really glad that you are thinking about your kid, whereas I'm like, damn, that's a good down payment for a house in my name, though.
No,
I'm
hundred
here
thousand
like
dollars is a
my
lot,
own
dude.
asset.
It is.
It's
It
okay.
is a lot.
Our answers are
That's why it's
respective of
such a.
us. That's fine.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get my asset valuation up, bro.
With like the grind don't
Uh,
stop. What kid?
Yeah, for real, dude. Fuck that shit, dude.
Why
Kids
have kid
become.
when you have problems, dude?
Dude, why have kid when you can have fucking houses, dude?
oh
Got
my
beach
gosh.
house, got house in the suburbs.
What you playing GTA?
Yeah, bro. Say less, dude. Amount I
And
invest in my kid, same as a house in the
wow.
Bahamas, the beach house in California, dog.
Anyway,
Just kidding.
moving on from financial commitments, let's talk about something we don't have to be committed to, and that is music. Let's go to our songs of the week. As usual, Abid, would you like to start off?
Yes, sir. Say less. First for me is Talk by Keshi. Keshi dropped his new
Mood.
EP last week. It's called Always. Every song on that EP is beautiful. It's perfection. Talk particularly just It's very vibey. Um, kind of upbeat, but when you listen to the words, it's like, oh, he's trying to have an actual conversation with someone about some like some serious stuff. So it's really interesting. It can be lighthearted. It can be super deep. It's how you take it. It's super nice. Keshi's amazing. I will simp for Keshi till I die. Um, my second song is "Thou Won't Save Us" by Against the Current.
Ooh,
Against the Current is a band that I religiously followed.
yo, that's TV things,
That's a
man.
throwback
True.
thing. Like I would talk to all these guys about Against the Current back in our school days, because Josh and I were obsessed with the lead singer. Um, Against the Currents was super lit band. They make amazing music. They worked with League. Um, the song is really good. It's rock on the rock side, and I haven't had a song that heavy appeal to me in a long while, so it was really nice. It's a good song, and yeah, Chrissy's amazing. Aaron.
Okay.
Hey,
Okay. So my
Aaron.
two songs of the week. My first one would be "Evolution" by Jordan Lucas. Um, he dropped his new EP album. EP. I don't fucking know. Uh, titled "Evolution," and the title track, is it's a very Joyner song where he's very introspective about wanting to evolve as a human, and of course the word evolution, he's using it as the word growth, right? And he talks about wanting to evolve, wanting to become a better person, wanting to do things for himself and become an entrepreneur of his own life. And I think it's a very motivating song, because he's talking about the position of wanting to become a better man and then becoming a better man and still wanting to grow. And it's always nice to see people grow and achieve their ideal selves, or at least work towards becoming their ideal selves. I think that's always very nice to see. My second song would be, okay, my second song would probably be uh, "Pretty Young Thing" by Michael Jackson. It's a bit of a
okay.
bit of a throwback, but
Damn.
I've been listening to the song a lot lately because when my dad listens to a lot of like older music, so when I went to his place last week, he had the song playing, and for some reason it's just been stuck in my head. How groovy it is, how jazzy it is, and it's just so classy. And Michael Jackson is timeless. So yeah, those would be my two songs of the week. Songs I'm listening to. Jason.
You wanna go, Drew?
I didn't. I think A starts before you, but I can go first.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay,
I'll,
but I'll let you.
yeah,
I'll let
I'll,
you. I'll
I,
let you.
I'll go
I,
first. I'll
I,
go first
I,
since you recommend, since you suggested. I didn't know my
It's
name was Jade, bro.
Actually.
That's a name too.
jaded. Come.
um, yeah, my first song is a new song by Ailey, her
Oh,
Korean
I leave.
singer.
Ellie.
She grew up in America too, so it's called "When We Were in Love." It's a very beautiful song with piano progression. It's a ballad, and the lyrics really hit you because it's about this person who clearly is longing for a past relationship, but also um, focusing on the fact that things are blurry ahead. That's literally one of the lyrics. Making things so blurry ahead is one of the lines in the song, and I was like, oh, that hit deep. That really hit deep. Second one is also throwback. If you're a fan of Nickelodeon, you'd know Big Time Rush. And
Let's fucking go, baby.
my second
Let's
song is
go.
"Worldwide" by Big Time Rush, because I've been thinking about you worldwide. Very applicable. You know what I'm
Damn,
saying? So
bro.
Damn, bro, that's
yes.
crazy, bro. Wow, bro, that's amazing insight, dude. I'm joking, I'm joking.
Anyway,
Uh,
yes.
alright. My first song would be "Conclusions" by Rob Curley. Um, that EP in general is just a lo-fi EP, and he talks about, his failed relationships and his struggles in life. So it's very calm, but if you really listen to the lyrics, it just hits so different, and that's why um, I that song really got me like feeling all, sad boy, but at the same time chill. So it's a good vibey EP to go with. Secondly, I also feeling a little throwback lately. Um, and it's a song that all of you will probably know. It's "Am I Wrong" by Nico and Vince. Uh, it's
Am I
a
wrong? We could be. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, that
Oh
should
yeah,
have
yeah,
bopped.
yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah,
should
yeah.
have bopped.
That shit's a bop. That's one of the songs that hit me personally growing up. So, s- and I haven't heard it in a long time, and recently I've been listening to it as well. So hits different. Yeah, nostalgic shit hits different, man. The classic. So yeah, those are my two songs.
All right, those are good 8 songs, y'all. It's a wrap. Thank you
Yes,
to
sir.
everyone for tuning in to listen to our 16th ATS cast. Uh, Bye, everyone.
It's a wrap, not a
Ciao.
burrito.
Stay safe.
Fuck off a bit.
Wait.
Wrap, not a burrito.